On the first one, it says use the diagram to the right to name the following. It says 4 collinear points. That means 4 points that are on the same line, right? Well, on this one, there's only one line that has 4 points on it, right? And that would be this one going down through the middle. And those 4 points are H, N, K, and I. So I have H, N, K, and I. I have to make sure all of those are uppercase because they're points. And it didn't matter if you wrote them in any certain order, you just had to write that list of points. And then if I go down to B, there is multiple answers that would have been correct for B. Because it says name a line that contains point M. Well, I can find point M easy. It's on this line. Now there was multiple, you either named a line with 2 points or you named it with a lowercase cursive or script letter, right? So the first thing I see when I look at this line is there's a lowercase letter right beside of it. And so I could say that this is line P. But then I also know that I can use any 2 points. So I can use point M, and then I can use N or O, so I can say line, let's just say M, N. But also I can still use M, N, have a line over top with 2 arrows on the end, right? Any of those are right, and it doesn't have to be M and N. You could have had M and O, or O and M, or N and O.
How about all 3?
You can't have all 3. It has to just be 2. So if you said something like line M, N, O, that would have been kind of wrong. Does that make sense? So it has to just be 2 letters or the lowercase cursive letter. And so basically the next one, C, is the same. It says name a line that contains points H and K. Honestly, you could have done this one without even looking at the graph because you have to have 2 points to name a line, right? Well, if you know that H and K are already on that line, you could just say line HK, or you could say HK, have a line of 2 arrows over top of it. You don't have to use H and K. You could have used H and N, N and K, N and I, or anything. But what else could I have named that without using points?
The R.
Line R, yep. D, it just wants another name for line Q. So I have to use this line. I can't say line Q because that would be the same name. But I can use any 2 of these 3 points. So I can say KL with a line with 2 arrows on top. I could have done the same with JK. I could have said line JL. Any of those would have been okay. The only thing that would not have worked is if I'd have said line JKL or line KJL, because it has to just be 2, and I couldn't have used any of these points that's not on that line, obviously, right? Now E asks for the intersections of lines P and R. So I go to where P and R cross, which would be here. What point is that? Technically, you should probably write out the word point N, but if you just wrote the capital N, I would not count it wrong. Does anybody have any questions on that section 1? Alright, on the second one, this time I have planes and lines together, and I have a couple of lines going different ways. So before I start going over the words, I'm going to talk about this figure a little bit. So this plane is the two-dimensional flat surface here, right? Does everybody see how this line is dotted? What that is trying to tell you is that that line has went underneath that plane. And so anytime you have something dotted in this class, a dotted line, that means it is behind a figure that is in front of it. So what this is saying is basically this flat piece of paper is my plane, right? Line K, where it's dotted, is coming up from the bottom through the plane. Does that make sense? And then the other line, J or line DF, is just on the surface of that plane. So that would be like, let's say there was a fireman's pole going through the floor. That would be this line, and maybe this line was just a crack in the floor going all the way across it. But still, when I'm just naming them, I name them the same way. So A says name a line containing point F. F is on this line. I'm going to use the little lowercase letter since it's there. So I'm just going to say line J. You could have said line DE, DE with a line and two arrows over top of it, FD with a line and two arrows over top of it. Any two of the letters F, E, or D would have worked, or just line J because that's your lowercase letter. And it says another name for line K. So that's the line going up through the middle. What 3 points are on line K?
C, E, and B.
C, E, and B, right? So I can use any two of those three. I'm just going to use C, B. If I look, E is actually on both lines that are in that picture, right? Now, letter C says a plane containing point A. So this time I'm naming a plane. If I look back at the notes we just did, I name a plane with how many points? How many letters?
2.
That's a line.
Oh, yeah. 3.
3, right? So a point is 1 capital letter. A line is 2 capital letters. A plane is 3 capital letters, right? But those 3 letters cannot be in the same line, right? So I have to use 3 letters. So I have 4 points that are on that plane. A, D, E, and F. C and B are not on that plane, so I can't use them, right? So which of these points am I going to have to use no matter what? A, because D, E, and F are all 3 on the same line, right? But then it doesn't matter which other 2 points I can use. I can say plane A, D, E, plane F, E, A. I just can't use D, E, and F because all 3 of those are on the same line. But then also, what else could I have named that?
Plane M.
I have this capital M, and I could have said plane M. And that's supposed to be a cursive looking M. D, I basically just did D whenever I was naming the plane. It says an example of 3 non-collinear points. Well, I had to use 3 non-collinear points to name that plane. So I could just say A, D, and E. But you have a lot of different options. You could say C, A, D, C, E, F. They just can't be in a straight line. You could not put M. M is not a point. There's no dot beside of it. And J is not a point because there's no dot beside of it. And is lowercase. And then the intersection of plane M and line K. Where does line K come up through plane M?
E.
At point E, right? Anybody have a question on either of those we just went over, one or two? So all you have for the rest of the day, for the rest of class, is to finish what's on attached with these notes. So 3 and 4, and then there's another page that's on the same stuff, and then you'll be done for the day. So go ahead and start on that. If you have questions, ask. And afterwards, we'll upload it to Google Classroom.